Now we get some reaction from the African National Congress on the VAT hike ruling. Several political parties, including those in the GNU, having claimed credit for halting the increase. We are joined now by ANC spokesperson Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri. Thank you so much for joining us, Mahlengi. We really do appreciate it. So, I mean, I know that you were listening to what we played earlier with what Julius Malema had to say. You've heard what the Democratic Alliance had to say. They, of course, taking I suppose the position that we are to some extent quite proud of this court order because it is because of the Democratic Alliance that we've seen the reversal of this VAT hike. The position of the ANC right now on what this means for status GNU with the inclusion of the Democratic Alliance. Mahlengi.
Thank you very much for having us this evening. The position of the ANC is that we are not going to claim any victory. I must also say that the court judgment is a moot point. By that time, even if the court had not set, even if the DA had not litigated, the ANC had done what it has done since it was formed, which is to unite people. We brought together different political parties to have a conversation about the budget impasse and what it is that we must do to break that impasse. A number of parties represented, a total of 11 parties who constitute a single majority in parliament, had already taken a decision about how that impasse will be broken. So I'm not even certain that it is worthy to opine on comments by Julius Malema and the recent spokesperson that just spoke now of the Democratic Alliance. It's neither here nor there for where we stand as the ANC. The most important thing for the African National Congress is that South Africans must be assured that the process of passing the budget is going to unfold. We are expecting to hear from the Minister of Finance in a day or two about proposals being made to Parliament. This is now on the part of the executive about when the budget process and the budget proposals will be presented for discussion by the House, sitting both houses of Parliament. And we are expecting basically that lawfulness to unfold. We're not really in the game of, I've been listening to these two organizations claiming victory and all of that. I don't think that South Africans deserve that. I think South Africans deserve a budget, and a budget that gets rolled out in line with the timeframes sometime towards July, and the finalization of that so that we can finance development, finance transformation, finance education, finance the absorption of doctors that are unemployed, that are much needed in our healthcare institutions. Yeah. Make sure that about close to 18,000 teachers in KZN that needs to be absorbed for us to finance education. All of that happens. So we're not playing that game that is being played about, ownership of this and that. Our job as the ANC, as the leader of society, is to make sure that there's stability in the Republic.
Yeah. Mahlengi, is there a concern, and I'm going to ask the question I asked to Karabo earlier, that within the government of national unity that there seems to be a stepping into the courts to resolve disagreements within the GNU members? I mean, just in February this year, you had the DA taking the issue of the expropriation legislation to court, again in the Western Cape High Court, and now this matter over the VAT hike and also, the process of that fiscal framework adoption. But what is the purpose then of this clearinghouse if you've got the two major parties of GNU needing to hear from the courts to see what the way forward is? Is that a concern for the ANC?
Well, correction. The ANC has never taken government to court. We can't take government to court because we are government. We may be a 40% party, but that 40% of the national vote share is significant for the purposes of continuing with the task of political and economic emancipation in South Africa. So the ANC has never jumped to the courts whenever it didn't get its way. Secondly, I think that question is best directed to the Democratic Alliance. The Democratic Alliance, and also I'm very loath of doing a party bashing here, because we as the ANC, we've got a message to communicate, not to fight with other parties. But maybe the question should have long been brought to by media houses to the Democratic Alliance to ask, are you in government or are you in opposition? Take a decision, because you can't be in government and take yourself to court. Imagine being a member of the family and then take the family to court that you are part of. And I'm not saying we're a family in any way, because we're totally ideologically opposed to one another. We unite for the sake of, or not unite, cooperate for the sake of the national interest. It's not the ANC that's ever gone to the courts. We manage things through conversation, through dialogue, through persuasion. So I really wish to understand, why would South Africans not ask this question of the Democratic Alliance that now comes back and claims victory when in any case, all other parties, right from the IFP all the way to Rise Mzansi, BOSA, UDM, Action SA, and all of them said to ANC, let's work together to isolate those people that are trying to destabilize our country. They were on record. It's not us who said so. Let's work together to make sure that the budget is passed and that we return to normalcy in the work of the national legislature. The DA is the one that is, as they would say in isiXhosa, to the airports, to the courts, as well as, of course, the other party that is outside of the government of national unity, the party of Julius Malema. We're not part of all of those shenanigans. We're focused on ensuring that our people have confidence in the fact that the institutions of democracy are working in our country. We understand the burden on us as the ANC, because we are the leader of society. We continue to be that one. We carry the burden of responsibility to act responsibly. We can't be running to the court for anything. Our job is to bring people around the table to have meaningful conversations that solve whatever impasse we are facing.
And part of those meaningful conversations is the understanding, as you say, that ideologically the Democratic Alliance and the ANC very, very different. I don't think anyone can argue that. So when we consider that there will be differences in that ideology, is there any conversation around a reconfiguring the government of national unity happening within the ANC? And I ask that because Action SA, BOSA standing alongside the ANC last week.
Well, a very important question to ask as I on my way to responding to your question in its fullness is the question about the fact that the Democratic Alliance claims. I was listening to the Karabo from the DA suggesting that they've been opposed to the VAT hike. That's a lie. And I'm really sorry to even use those words, the Christian in me. Let me say I can't even call it a half-truth. The DA made demands to the ANC that we were willing to support the raising of the VAT to take care of the revenue side of things in the event that you gave us the concessions that she spoke about, but she doesn't say that was one of the demands of the Democratic Alliance, that give us the control of the port in the Western Cape, give us the control of spending reviews in government via Treasury, give us this and that. Essentially, all that would have amounted to an enclave called the Western Cape. More like a Western Cape that is an Orania of sorts. And that is lost in translation when these conversations are taking place. You can bring Gorabo here and now for us to have a discussion. I'm hopeful that she would know about the intimate discussions that take place within her party. The DA was willing, had no problems with the VAT hike. only that they wanted the ANC to agree to what we called devolution of certain powers to the Western Cape, not devolution to certain powers to all other provinces, because the Western Cape is special according to them. And none of the media houses, opinion makers, are asking this question and asking the DA to refute what we've been putting forward about the fact that when the DA decided to go to the court, it was not a genuine thing, because we knew they were not averse to a VAT increase. In fact, I must also indicate that even within the African National Congress, there was a very strong voice against any VAT hike. Nobody will remind you of that, including in the very first meeting of cabinet, where budget proposals were tabled by the Minister of Finance and the National Treasury team. It is the ANC leaders in that cabinet that basically saw red around any idea of a VAT hike. Now, we're dealing with a DA that is led by people who believe they have the solutions for any problem in South Africa, and that, in fact, they and only they have that kind of authority, intellectual authority, to determine what is right for South Africa. That is why the parties that came together with the ANC and said we must put an end to this big brother mentality. And we stay on that. And we're going to ask the DA to actually tell us, as South Africans, as the ANC as well, as to whether they want to stay on the government of national unity. And if they want to do so, they must make a clear call.
Yeah.
Because they cannot be in opposition and a government at the same time. They have senior ministries in the current government, but continue to conduct themselves as though they are the opposition. We're grateful for the fact that our multi-democracy system has allowed for a proliferation of so many other parties of sober-minded individuals, those that you saw flanking the ANC. And again, I mentioned the IFP, I mentioned Action SA, and so on. It doesn't mean that the ANC is agreed with all of those parties on every issue. But if there's one thing that has united us, is our common commitment to make South Africa work.
Now, there's a lot to unpack here, Mahlengi, but we appreciate the time that you've given us. And of course, I can imagine quite a busy week ahead of us, and so we'll be catching up some more as well. Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri, the ANC national spokesperson.